everybody, and welcome to episode 70 of the 8 o'clock spot live on the GRYD Network's YouTube and Twitter account. I am your host, Bryson Carver. Excited to be back this week with three fantastic panelists. First off, a man who's going to let me hear it, particularly in our second segment. Big-time Yankees fan. We did sweep you guys for the record. We've won, 5-6 against you guys. But whatever. Mike Guido, the co-host of the Bicoastal Baseball Podcast and the co-founder of the GRYD Network. Mike, let me have it for the next,
with the amount of shit that you and Tim talked on Sunday about, everybody hates Yankee fans.
By it, by the way.
We're 5-1 against you guys. Yeah. Well, it's all a wrap now, Bryson. It's all a wrap now. So glad to be back for just that occasion.
You guys focus on not getting shut out in 11 innings against the LA Angels and then get back to me. All right, Arthur Hurst is joining us as well. Big-time Baltimore Ravens fan and Ohio State fan. I've joked that he has not only owned the 8 o'clock spot leaderboards, and he is. You wait till you guys see the standings. It is just absolute pure domination. But he's owned my teams over the course of this year. Arthur, how are you doing tonight?
Yo, what's going on, BC? How we doing, man? I'm gonna leave you alone, respectfully, because I'm gonna let Mike get on your behind about your Red Sox. But I'm happy to see that you're doing well, man. And I pray that another 5 years down the line, when y'all have somebody who's very great, y'all won't do the same thing.
Roman Anthony, please stay in Boston for the rest of your career. Like let's not keep repeating this cycle with Betts and with Rafael Devers. By the way, we'll touch on that in the second segment. I'm curious to see what everybody has to say. And Frank Speights is joining us. Listen, Frank, I keep repeating myself over and over, but this little run you've been on, you haven't won the 8 o'clock spot yet, right? But you joined a few weeks ago. This is your Patrick Mahomes last game of his rookie season, where it's you come in for Alex Smith. It's like, oh, who's this kid? Year 2, you're going to blow up. Season 3, the 8 o'clock spot, it's going to happen for you. But Frank, GRYD Network contributor, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. And just to bring people a little bit behind the curtain, Guido and Arthur, they're really going at it. So we're really going to have some fireworks today. So I'm really looking forward to it.
I'm just going to keep it real and further what you said, Frank. Mike was baited by Arthur to be on the show tonight. Like, it is. And by the way, there's stuff at stake for Mike as well. Let's just go and put up the leaderboard, because this is what the conversation is. Arthur is just annihilating the competition. 406 points. Our good friend Paris Brown is a distant second at 223 points, but he's certainly secured the silver medal in this. Dylan Lima's in third at 184. So Guido 18 points behind. A win tonight potentially could put him in that third place spot and set up a very fascinating final 8 o'clock spot episode for season 2 a week from tonight, followed by Barry Grant Jr., Tyler Reddington, Tim Barner, Kieran Glenn, myself, Alfred Parsard Jr., Asher Moore, Eric Van Litten. There's Frank Speights, Eric Ruiz, and E.J. Savage. Let's get into our rules for each round of the 8 o'clock spot. It's pretty simple. Best take gets 5 points. Second best take gets 3 points. The third best take gets 1 point. NBA Finals Game 5 was last night. The Pacers falling to the Thunder by a final score of 120-109. Oklahoma City up 3-2, a win away from the first championship in Thunder franchise history. Tyrese Haliburton, though, the story in this one, 0 for 6 from the field, was the first All-NBA player. Think about this, folks. The first All-NBA player in the NBA Finals to have an 0 for game since 1958. It's been a while. So Haliburton struggled, but it comes out today, Mike, that that there's a calf strain issue. And we saw this in the first half last night. It seemed to linger. TJ McConnell, his backup, comes in and plays really good minutes. You could argue, along with Siakam, he was one of the 2 best Pacers, and yet Rick Carlisle opts to keep Haliburton in. Was this the right decision for the Pacers?
I do. I also think it's hilariously funny how, every time, it seems like every time now a player plays bad in any particular sport, all of a sudden an injury pops up the next day as some sort of excuse. So I don't know. He's going to play in game 6. Like, let's not pretend like this is going to hold him out. Okay. Listen, if I'm Rick Carlisle, I don't know that I'm taking Tyrese Haliburton out of the game. Listen, it's not like he was shooting devastatingly poor. He had only shot 6 times. So it's not like he was 1 for 10, 1 for 12. And you're just like, all right, listen, he just doesn't have it tonight. That's it, right? Tyrese Haliburton, you can make the argument, has been the most clutch player in this entire postseason, in this entire playoffs. And he's been the guy that's mounted comeback after comeback for the Pacers during these playoffs. You just kind of have to ride your guy out. Now, again, this was a game, I think, that Indiana let kind of get away from them early, and they were put in a position where they needed to kind of come back. And listen, what the Pacers have done in this series is not what we've seen from them earlier on in the playoffs when they beat up the Cavs, when they beat up the Knicks. Like, it's just not the same offensive vibe that we've gotten from them earlier on in the playoffs. So I think Haliburton, he's very clearly their guy. You know, nobody can make that argument. But we've also seen this before, Bryson, where he just kind of disappears in certain games. And the Pacers have won games without him, but in this particular scenario against that level of an OKC team, they needed him to be a little bit better. And that's the thing. You know, I don't know that any share of coaching or any share of anything could have taken them out of that scenario. Tyrese Haliburton's your guy. Sometimes you just need to ride the wave and have him get you out of it and trust him late in games, even if he doesn't have a good first 3 quarters.
I think there's no question about that, and you sort of alluded to some of the scoring struggles Haliburton has had. Like, this isn't necessarily foreign to him. This is all 4 series, he's had a game of scoring 10 points or less. He had a 10-point game to start the playoffs against the Bucks. He had a 4-point game against your Cavs in Game 3, an 8-point game against the Knicks in Game 5, and now a 4-point night without making a single shot. So good take there by Mike Guido, riding the hot hand. Like, you understand, the guy who's gotten you to this point. Arthur Hurst now into the mix. Arthur, did Rick Carlisle, the head coach of the Pacers, make the correct call in keeping Tyrese Haliburton in over TJ McConnell?
I would completely agree with Mike. If Tyrese Haliburton actually was shooting 1 for 10, I would have no problem if Rick Carlisle decided to keep his best player in the game if he shot that poorly. Why? Because it's like what a lot of NBA players, a lot of basketball players say. I would rather go 1 of 10, 2 of whatever. I'd rather shoot poorly than shoot as Tyrese Haliburton did last night, 0 of 6, because then that means I mentally checked out. My shot's not going down. I'm shooting poorly. I just can't. I'm not there. And Tyrese Haliburton, shoots inefficiently most of the time. He has times where he can, have efficient scoring nights. But last night, I need you to keep shooting, dude. And if it's either because of your calf string and your leg and you just not feeling it, then I get it. Right? But you got to thug it out. We need you tonight. We need you to still try to make some plays. We need you to try to still make something happen. Last game, game four, SGA was having a pretty bad game. And then all of a sudden in that 4th quarter, he drew a foul, got to the free throw line, saw the bucket ball go through the hoop, and then all of a sudden went on a personal 7-0 run. And then he just dropped, I think it was 11 or more points in the 4th quarter. The OKC Thunder come out and win game 4 in hostile territory in Indianapolis. And I would love to see that from Tyrese Haliburton. You know what? My shot's not falling. Let me go do something. Let me get to the free throw line. But that's not something that he does, right? That he just has to add to his game. But TJ McConnell, he was that bread and butter last night. He was getting them going in that 3rd quarter. And I would have loved to see TJ McConnell close out the game because you could see he really wanted it. And that team was able to just flow. And yeah, he's not Tyrese Haliburton, but TJ McConnell loves using that screen and roll and get to the mid-range close to the hoop. And he's shooting over 3 people, getting and ones at times. And again, that's just what he does off of the bench. But I would have loved to see TJ McConnell play more in that 4th quarter, being able to take that minutes and pressure off of Tyrese Haliburton. If those two were able to play together in the 4th quarter, I believe Indianapolis could have won because now, again, that pressure, the scoring, and all of that is taken off of Tyrese Haliburton. You would now have another point guard, a true point guard in there in TJ McConnell who can run that offense and be a glue guy and is not that bad on defense as well. Tyrese Haliburton, though, I do feel like should have been taken out of the game because it's like, dog, you're my star player. I can't have you mentally checked out. And not only that, you're not doing anything productive to help your team win this game. So I think actually keeping him in hurt the team more than bringing him out.
I mean, I think you spoke to an issue that we have talked about with Haliburton. It's not about him taking a ton of shots. It's not about him taking 25 shots. It's not his game. But so often I keep harping on this, and I saw it a lot in Game 2, saw it last night, where he will, it teaches. I was talking to our buddy Paris about this in our post-game show last night, is down to the youth level. Coaches will tell you this, where if do not make a jump pass. If you're going to jump, take the shot, right? Like, don't put yourself in a position where you have to make an awkward cross-court pass, which Haliburton is doing at the last second when a Thunder defender is closing in on him. So good take by Arthur. It's just the aggressiveness that's got to come from Tyrese Haliburton moving forward. Finally, from Frank Speights. Frank, did Rick Carlisle make the correct coaching decision in playing Tyrese Haliburton, particularly late in the fourth quarter, over TJ McConnell?
So I'm going to kind of split the baby between Arthur and Guido here, because they both make good points, and I agree with points of both of them. The thing is, in regards to the answer, I'm going to say no, he didn't make the right decision, which is easy to say, and hindsight is 2020. Rick Carlisle did the thing that most coaches do. Tyrese Haliburton gets you to this point. He's been amazing throughout the whole playoffs, and he's been clutch. He's brought you to this moment. And he gets hurt. We see that he gets hurt within that first 2 minutes within the game. TJ McConnell comes in and is amazing. He shot 6 of 8, 12 points within the third quarter. Within he went on that little run by himself. You get into the fourth quarter, and the Pacers are losing, but they're slowly making their way back. They put Haliburton back in, and then you see, I think they had 4 straight turnovers, and that turned into 8 points for the Thunder. And in that moment, Rick Carlisle pulled infamously what Pat Riley did in the 94 finals against the Houston Rockets, where John Starks is shooting consistently. He's your guy. He gets you there, and you just let him shoot it out. But the problem is, this is the playoffs. This is the finals. This is all or nothing. So you had to make those type of adjustments. So personally, I would say, hey, if anything, no. Are we going to completely take Haliburton out to the point where he's not going to be in at all towards the end of the game? No. At the end of the day, he is our guy. He doesn't necessarily need to shoot. He's a threat, but he doesn't necessarily need to shoot. We can have TJ McConnell out there. He brings a little bit of a spark out there. Siakam was killing them a little bit too. So we could have TJ come out for a little bit. They give him his little break, his normal little break. Tyrese goes in, he does his thing. Once you see that those turnovers were consistently happening, you throw TJ back in there, hopefully gives you a little spark. And then if you need him in the last 2 minutes, then all right, then you put him in. So overall, yeah, I would say no, it wasn't exactly the great move. We'll see if it was a mistake. Those small mistakes, you could really because of that mistake, the Pacers could end up losing the series. So we'll see.
No question. And you consider they were down double digits through, large portions of that first half. I mean, again, going back to what I was talking about with Paris, who's the big Pacers fan and obviously has done great on the show, is that for Indiana to be down 14 points after how they played in the first half was a minor miracle. It felt like everything was coming apart, and yet they were still within reach. And yet somehow, some way, Haliburton struggles the way he does. Is it related to the injury? Guido makes interesting points. I'll go ahead and bring everybody, back in the mix here, to discuss this. Guido, you make an interesting point that it seems like every time that there's a struggle, like there's the injury comes out. Now, again, in fairness, we did literally see the injury happen as it relates to, Haliburton was walking with a noticeable limp, all of it, but this isn't necessarily the story if Haliburton drops, 18 points and dished with 8 assists, which is why I think Mike had the best take in this segment. Give him 5 points to start this 8 o'clock spot. Arthur Hurst with 3 points, Frank Speights with 1 point. It is a tight 8 o'clock spot. And I'm dreading going into that. But, before I even do that, let's give Jalen Williams love, right? Like, I'm not stalling this segment whatsoever. Jalen Williams, right? 40 points in this game. The Thunder, top 2 guys dropping. I can't do it. 71 points between the top 2 OKC guys as it relates to, as opposed to 32 points from the top 2.
Who cares, Bryson? Let's move on.
The Red Sox traded Rafael Devers. What do you want me to say? Okay, so Rafi Devers, beloved member of the Red Sox, the last member of the 2018 champion Boston Red Sox, was traded for pitchers, outfielders, pros. I don't even know what who cares what it's bad. Okay, it's a bad. Arthur, before I lose my mind, is there any justification the Red Sox making this move at all?
So y'all remember that Family Guy episode where the Griffin couple are in the office? They're trying to get a boat, right? And the guy pulls a mystery box out. And so Peter, we love Peter Griffin. He says a boat is a boat and a mystery box is a mystery box, but it can even be a boat. And that's exactly what the Red Sox did here. Rafael Devers is Rafael Devers, but a prospect can be anything. A prospect can even be Rafael Devers. The problem is this. Nobody else is Rafael Devers. Just like 5 years ago, nobody else is Mookie Betts. But hey, what do you know? This shouldn't be a surprise, right? There's been a decline in just logic from the Red Sox organization. So there shouldn't be a surprise that when you get rid of one of the best rising players in Mookie Betts a few years ago, that's here, you're doing the exact same thing. You let Rafael Devers go. And in both instances, it was for nothing. It wouldn't be understandable, but the Boston Red Sox would easily get a lot more, I guess you could say, leeway and understanding if they actually got something back in return for those two guys. But they eventually got a bag of chips, and you let both of these great guys go who are the best or one of the best at what they do in the Major League Baseball. So there's no justification. It just goes to show that ownership, they don't know what the heck they're doing. They have to get out of there, to be honest. But who's going to say that? They're not going to want to give up the money. They're not going to want to give up those positions. Somebody's going to have to take the blame because ownership is never, ever taking the blame. But no, there is no justification for letting somebody like Rafael Devers go, just like there was no justification for letting somebody like Mookie Betts go.
I'll say this. I think the Betts trade was worse for a number of reasons, and that there was, no clubhouse issues. There's more coming out of Boston by the hour about how there was some issues in the clubhouse. David Ortiz, who is as beloved a member as there is in Red Sox Nation, came out and said, yeah, I reached out to him multiple times. He never called back. Like there was no, there was no sort of relationship there. And it gets worse by the day. And to your point, Arthur, like the Red Sox seem to have an uncanny ability to get as little as possible from, by the way, 3 previous champions. I'll sort of bring up a tweet I saw on social media that made me sick to my stomach. But before that, Frank Speights is in the mix. Is there any justification, Frank, for the Red Sox making this move whatsoever?
Yeah, I'm sorry to disappoint you. No, there's no justification for this at all. Yeah, man, it's crazy. And one thing that I do think that some people are missing with this, if this was a situation with the Red Sox where they didn't trade away Mookie Betts years ago, I think a lot of us would look at it and say, wow, it must have been really bad within that clubhouse that they just traded him away for basically nothing. This is one of the best hitters in the league. He's a left-hander. The guy's a Yankee killer. Those are all very important things that you need if you're the Red Sox and you're looking to eventually go on and win a championship. And for them to just trade him away, I can't believe that things got that bad. We were talking about this before, how they were playing out in front of everyone. I've never really seen that much and things be that open, where very openly Devers is fighting with Boston. There was talks about the owner flying to Kansas City when they were playing in Boston, the fights going on in spring training. And I just have never seen that type of thing. And for the Red Sox to constantly do this thing, I'm with you with the Mookie thing. That to see Mookie playing with the Dodgers the way he is, to see him win a ring, I'm sorry, that must be heartbreaking for you. It would definitely be heartbreaking for me if I was a Red Sox fan. It's just sad. And just to see this team going through the motions, them being an organization that's kind of like a small market team where consistently they're not paying these players that are amazing. And we all know that Rafi's going to go on and he's going to be great for the Giants. Everyone is they're just shocked by this. There's no justification for it at all. I can't defend it at all.
You mentioned that Rafi Devers, well, I guess we can say now was, because he's in the National League, was a Yankee killer. He in particular was a Garrett Cole killer, who obviously, no Garrett Cole this season, but he bat .350 against Cole with 8 homers and 20 RBIs. Just like, I'm trying to remember the good times, man. Anytime he came up, first inning, I'm like, okay, if we got a runner on, it's about to be 2-0 Red Sox, because he's about to do damage against one of the best aces in Major League Baseball. So, and you alluded, to, yeah, this must really hurt. Yes, it does hurt, Frank. It hurts, okay? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to yell at you. It's not personal, man. I promise. It's not. I'm not going at Frank personally. I may go at Mike Guido personally. We got to see where this segment goes. I just want to remind you, Mike, that we did sweep you guys over the weekend. We've taken 5 of 6, and you guys are struggling against the Angels. Did the Red Sox make the right move in trading Devers? Is there any justification for this nonsense?
So I'll answer, and I apologize if this is long-winded, but I am going to say no. I don't think that there is a justification. I think that you can make sense of it if you strip Rafi Devers' name out of the situation, right? I think Mark DeRosa said this on MLB Network yesterday, and I actually think it was a fairly good point. I don't agree with the trade from a Red Sox perspective at all, but if you strip Rafi Devers' name out of it, you could say, okay, he's a bad defensive player. He didn't want to play where you needed him to. He was clearly upset in the clubhouse. He's 28 years old on a massive contract. And again, 28's not old, but he's not really considered young anymore. Like, okay, like that's not a terrible situation to get out of. However, it's Rafi Devers. It's arguably a top 5 offensive player in the sport. And the Red Sox are a team where, while this season has kind of been a bit of a roller coaster for them, they're very much in the thick of that AL East, right? The Yankees right now are at the top. And then after that, the Rays, the Blue Jays are both kind of within striking distance. The Red Sox could very easily have been right there. So the timing is really something else. Bryson, I talked to you a little bit about this before pre-show, just saying it makes you wonder how bad things actually were there in Boston. Obviously, what Frank said about how the owner kind of flew down to Kansas City. And, because this thing has been covered in so many different ways in different languages. Apparently, it's been covered different in Spanish than it has been in English. It's just a very messy situation. I also think that him going to San Francisco is a bit of an odd fit, right? Just because Rafi Devers is a third baseman. Whether or not he's a good one, he isn't a very good one, but he goes down to San Francisco. San Francisco has a Gold Glove third baseman in Matt Chapman. So it's a very odd fit from that perspective. So listen, I think the real onus on this is that this is an ownership group in Boston that Boston people and Boston sports fans have grown very, very tired of. They don't feel like the Red Sox are a priority to the ownership group. They feel like their priorities are much more, over to the Liverpool side. They just don't think that this is a very Red Sox oriented group. So that's a big part of this as well. I just think, you can't really justify it at this point. It's a very odd move. What they got in return is not like they got nothing, because Kyle Harrison was at one point a top 10 prospect in the league, right? Jordan Hicks throws 102. They've got some pieces back, but it's not what you want to get for Rafi Devers. This had nothing to do with, I think, the ownership being cheap. I think it just had something to do with them botching the situation with the relationship that they have with their players. And that's really where this all stems from.
And a lot of it stems from not only just the bad relationship with their players, but it sort of that, the lack of communication with Devers during this offseason. When you bring in Alex Bregman, there's whether Rafi's going to play third base or not. The way that they have bungled first base over the last half decade, it feels like that's just been not a position of priority for them. And then yes, Rafi to play it after you told him he wasn't going to have to use his glove. It was a complete mess. I'm going to go and bring everybody back in the mix here, because I thought everybody had solid takes across the board. Before I do the scoring, I just did, and I read this to you guys, this tweet before the show. And I'll give credit where it's due. Razball, a Twitter account, put on there that Mookie Betts, Rafael Devers, and Chris Sale have netted Vaughn Grissom, Alex Verdugo, Connor Wong, Jeter Downs, Jordan Hicks, and Kyle Harrison. Those trades would have the Red Sox kicked out of a fantasy league. And by the way, might I mention that the Red Sox actually sent cash to the Braves in the Chris Sale trade and sent cash to the Dodgers in the Mookie Betts trade. So when it comes to getting the best out of, whatever deal they can possibly, put on the table, the Red Sox are about the worst in baseball doing it. Frank, I thought you had the best take. I'm going to give you 5 points, get you to 6 right here. Big time rebound on your part. Mike, I thought you had the second best take, get you to 8 points. You're still in the lead. Arthur at 4 points. So this is a tightly contested contest as we go into I couldn't be more excited to go into our third topic. One, because I'm a big fan of this athlete, and B, I'm glad to be done with this segment because it was no fun. Caitlin Clark returned on Saturday afternoon against the New York Liberty, the defending WNBA champions, who suffered their first loss of the year to the Indiana Fever, 102-88. Caitlin Clark was nothing short of special. 32 points, 9 assists, 8 rebounds. She had a steal. She had 2 blocks, by the way, and was fantastic, shooting 11 of 20 from the field, 7 of 14 from three-point territory. Frank, listen, we understand that this is the most discussed player in women's basketball. That question has been since she was at Iowa. It got me to thinking, is there a player more valuable to their league today in America than Caitlin Clark is to the WNBA?
No, she's definitely it. I mean, if you look at any other sport, I mean, she without a doubt is the superstar within the sport. I mean, even I've just been on, this network for the past couple shows. You guys have been around for a year or two. A year or two, will we be talking about the WNBA at all? I mean, honestly, and Caitlin Clark isn't the best player in the WNBA, by the way. I would say that would be A'ja Wilson, but no one's talking about A'ja Wilson. Caitlin Clark was hurt. It was a 55% drop in the viewership. So she is clearly bringing eyes to this sport, which is great, which is phenomenal. She's going to bring in a generation of players that are going to want to play her style. They're going to be watching basketball. There's going to be a lot of women out there that are going to want to be playing basketball. I think it's great. And there's no doubt that she is 1,000% one of the most important people. There is not just one person with any other sport where you can say, if it wasn't for this person being gone from the sport, that we would be screwed. Yeah, it would mess up the NFL a little bit if Patrick Mahomes tore out and blew out his ACL. But we've seen it in the past when Peyton Manning got hurt. We've seen it in the past when Tom Brady got hurt, that it doesn't affect the NFL at all. It doesn't affect MLB. It doesn't affect basketball as much. So she's the only type of person where she's it. She's gone, and then the viewership drops more than half. That's insane. What other sport has that type of superstar, that type of player where you get that? And I think it's, once again, I think it's great for the sport. It's great coming in. You rattled off her stats. She scored 25 points in the first half against the defending champion. She's unbelievable. And I can't wait to see. She's not even close to being in her prime yet. I can't wait to see where she truly gets to that point where, 4 or 5 years from now, where she's really just super comfortable being consistently that type of person. That's a Steph-like person where, they're shooting threes and able to just kind of take over games the way that she did the other day.
And what's amazing about this particular player is that obviously the Steph comps are there. Indiana Fever, even with the number one pick in 2023 in Aaliyah Boston, who was excellent, South Carolina,
the year before,
were the worst team of the WNBA. They were a playoff team last year with some of the offseason acquisitions they made and the improvement of Caitlin Clark, Leah Boston, and others. They're a very real, I don't know if I would go so far as say championship contender right now. I don't think they're quite on that level.
They're one of the favorites. Yeah, they're in the top 4.
But they could, listen, could we see a situation where they're maybe in the WNBA finals? And by the way, the finals happen in right smack dab in the middle of football season and Major League playoffs. It'd be fun to square a Caitlin Clark
We might be talking about it. Yeah.
That would be fascinating. There's no question about it. So good take there by Frank. We're going to bring in Mike Guido. Mike, Caitlin Clark returns, as Frank mentioned, viewership skyrockets, and just the star power that this player has on the floor, swagger, all of it. Do you think she is the most important athlete in a team setting, obviously, to her league than any American athlete we have going right now?
Yeah, and I don't even think it's close. Like, I really don't think that this is a discussion as far as today's standards. I think that she's as impactful on the WNBA as Tiger Woods was in the PGA. Like, I really think that that's the sort of impact she has. Frank said it before and kind of stole my number, I'll tell you that, but she has literally more than doubled the WNBA viewership. When she got hurt, the WNBA viewership got cut in half. Like, it is just simply not the same thing. Now, like, I'm not going to go ahead and say that the WNBA is all of a sudden a super high-performing sport. It still is not. However, it has literally changed. Think about this for a second. The NBA are in the finals. The NBA are in the finals. The WNBA season is 10 games in, and we are talking about Caitlin Clark in the WNBA. Like, there is just simply no, and I would bet you, Bryson, right? I'm co-founder of this network. I would bet dollars to donuts that when we clip up this show, the segments that we do on Caitlin Clark and on the WNBA from this show will be the highest performing videos from this entire show. And it's just because of the impact that Caitlin Clark has. Not only that, will I say this, I don't think I've ever seen in any other sport, and maybe it's because it's the WNBA, but I don't think I've seen in any other sport where a singular player is so popular and so responsible for the ascension and the success of their league that the rest of the league has kind of exiled her. Like, it is unbelievable how that sort of happens. She gets treated horribly in the WNBA because other WNBA players hate that she's getting as much attention, right? Frank said it before. She's not the best player in the WNBA. That would probably Aja Wilson. It would be Breanna Stewart. It would be any of these other people, right? Nafisa Collier. Like, it would be one of these other players, but Caitlin Clark is sort of stealing the spotlight because she's attracting all of this attention. She's been doing it since college. I don't even think it's close, Bryson. She is the modern day Tiger Woods for her sport. It is just exploding. And like I said, the WNBA is not a smash success, but compared to what it was, it is not even close how much she's done for this league as compared to any other.
During your take, I hate to say that I was going to a different tab on my computer, but just for the sake of your argument, I actually did go to the GRYD's YouTube channel, and what we want to take a wild guess of what our most popular video was?
I'm sure, yeah.
It was an 8 o'clock spot clip of us talking about Caitlin Clark. Like I've said on my show, I talked about it yesterday on Carving It Up, that there are 3 things that consistently get me views on that channel. The NFL doesn't really, like, the NFL is the king of television. We know this.
Right.
It will never die. LeBron or Steph, Caitlin Clark. Without fail. Like there's just a star power, there's a magnetism, and I think you're spot on the money. And finally, I bring in Arthur Hurst. Arthur, is there a player, is there an athlete in any league going on in the United States of America right now that is more impactful to their league than Caitlin Clark is?
Forget the league. There is no one more impactful to their sport than Caitlin Clark. Forget just the WNBA. Women's basketball is now not the same without her. When she came back over the weekend, that first game back from her 5-game injury, they had a peak of 2.8 million viewers. Right? Like, dude, forget the Caitlin Clark effect. That's the Al-Qaeda effect. Hey, the 2 most popular hoopers right now in basketball, and Tyrese Haliburton, a.k.a. Haliban, and Caitlin Clark, Al-Qaeda, are right now taking refuge in Indianapolis. If y'all want to come get them, y'all can go ahead and come get them, because that's where you're going to find them. Caitlin Clark and the funny thing about it is this: before her, it was Paige Beckers. Before Paige Beckers, it was Sabrina Ionescu. Right? There were eyes, but we're not watching the WNBA. But Paige Beckers was killing in college, but then she got injured. And then all of a sudden, Caitlin Clark stepped in, and then she filled that role for the last 2 years of her collegiate career. And now we're in the WNBA, and now she's selling out arenas and bringing fans and bringing eyes and all of this. Mike calls her the modern-day Tiger Woods of her sport. I call her the modern-day Steph Curry. Because not only do they play the same, right? Snipers from threes, crazy handles, can shoot the mid-range as well, can get to the hole. But you got all these people wanting to be like you. You got all these people at the playground that wanted to be like Steph Curry. They're normal sized guys, small, skinny, but they see, oh, he can shoot like that. I want to do that too. Now I'm gonna just pull from freaking 40 and try to do the same thing as Steph Curry. Caitlin Clark is having that same impact on her sport. It's like Frank said, now you're having a whole lot of people saying, you know what? I want to play like that. I want to be able to shoot like that. I want to behave crazy handles like that. But the problem is this: not everybody can be like that. Not everybody can be like Stephen Curry. Not everybody can be like Caitlin Clark. So you're gonna have to find ways on your own to make an impact on your own game as an individual. But like I said, forget the league. There is nobody more important to their sport right now than Caitlin Clark for women's basketball. Again, like both Frank and Mike said, there are better players than her in this league, but they are not drawing the attraction that she draws, which is part of the hate. And I completely get it. How in the heck do you, a second-year player, get more attention than somebody like Aja Wilson, who's been dominating, a champion, MVP, all of that? It makes no sense logically. But as styles make fights, styles draw fans and all of these things. So Caitlin Clark is doing her thing, man.
It reminds me, when you and Mike have sort of hit on the pettiness around the WNBA, it reminds me a little bit of LeBron early on with his own teammates in Cleveland. I mean, if you go back to like some Carlos Boozer interviews back from 2003, it's like, oh, this kid thinks he's going to come in, change everything. Like, yeah, he is. He's the greatest prospect maybe in the history of the draft. Like, there's and like you said, like these are professional athletes. They're prideful. Like you get that from a human perspective from these, from these women in the league. But real quick, sort of to your point, Arthur and Steph, before we, the comparison with her and Steph Curry before we get into the scoring, the Indiana Fever actually tweeted this after the game. The WNBA 3-point line is 22 feet. Caitlin Clark's 7 threes came from 33 feet, 27, 31, 26, 31, 27, 26. In other words, bombs. Okay, like you used an interesting comparison to say the very least.
Don't be ashamed. Don't be ashamed. We dropping bombs on these people, dog. Come on now.
Got to be careful on that side of Twitter, man.
I'm gonna say, no, you ain't kidding. You ain't kidding. Mike Guido, best take of the segment. I'm gonna give him the 13. Get him to 13 points here. Frank in second. Arthur Hurst, a distant third. I must say, Arthur, as the point leader on the show, like it's starting to get a little separation here, but we'll see what happens. Last segment with all three of you involved, unless I guess the only way Arthur can get to the final round mathematically is if there's a tie between he and Frank. We'll see what happens. But the Memphis Grizzlies traded Desmond Bane to the Orlando Magic. Contavious Caldwell-Pope, Cole Anthony, a bunch of picks were involved. But Desmond Bane down with the Magic. They're now a much better offensive team, I imagine, than they were, coming into this season and through, in that brief playoff run against the Boston Celtics. But to me, really, Mike, is the story is Memphis. And a team that was, as recently as 2 years ago, the 2 seed. The year before that was a 2 seed, won a playoff series. They had promise. What do you think this move says about Memphis getting all these picks, getting two, veteran guards? What does it say about Ja Morant in the future that they want to have as a franchise?
I think it's really interesting because, and first of all, I want to preface it by this, right? Bryson, you and I are going to be covering the NBA draft next week. Like this in the Rudy Gobert trade a couple of years ago, I mean, I almost feel like it's disrespectful that picks are this worthless in the NBA nowadays. Like, it is so insane how Desmond Bane's a very good player, but 4 first-round picks, like, come on. Like, we trash Rudy Gobert all day, every day, and that guy was apparently worth 4 first-round picks. Like, I don't understand any of that. But, again, I digress. I do think it's very interesting, and I actually really, really like it for the Grizzlies because it seems like what this move looked like was, listen, the Grizzlies went 48-34 this year, and they were 8th in the Western Conference. They're looking at this roster, and they're like, listen, this is just not going to get it done, right? If we need to move pieces around this roster, and they have good players, right? Ja Morant is obviously what he is. Jaren Jackson is one of the best defensive players in the sport. I think Zach Edey's going to be a very good NBA player, and he showed glimpses of that this past season. Like, Desmond Bane, they viewed as a bit of an expendable piece where they can use all of these picks, guys like Cole Anthony, KCP, all these guys, they can use that and sort of retool what they're doing in Memphis, try to get their roster a little deeper, maybe try to bring in another star, because that's what they're seeing right now in the league, right? Look at what OKC is doing. Okay, OKC has built their team off of 1 trillion picks and hitting on a superstar in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, right? Look at the 2 teams that are in the finals right now. Those are 2 of the deepest teams in the NBA, right? This is one of these, this looks like a pure retool for the Grizzlies. They felt that Taylor Jenkins was not the guy to get them to the finals or get them past where they are now. They fired him. They're ready to move on, right? This is a team that simply is not afraid to make moves to elevate themselves, even if you look at the notification on your phone and you say, wow, like that's an interesting move. I didn't expect them to do that. They're not afraid to pull the trigger on those moves, and I think they're going to be better off for it in the long term. I really do.
Listen, I think to your point, and as a draft aficionado as you are, and to your point, a little bit of a plug there, our Grid's 2025 draft coverage, next week, obviously. If Memphis is able to potentially parlay a veteran like a KCP, which I got to admit, for an organization as immature as you know the Memphis Grizzlies are, I think having a guy like KCP in the building is actually really, really good for them. Could be good for Ja. We'll see how that plays out. I think they tried that with Steven Adams briefly, different position. But could they parlay that into a good, true number 2 offensive ball handling guy next to Ja? Obviously, with Jaren Jackson in the mix, there's been rumors that the Knicks might be interested in bringing Jaren Jackson in to pair up with Cat. We'll see what happens. The offseason feels like it's begun in the midst of the finals. So there's a lot of pieces to sort in, but a good take there by Mike Guido. Bring Arthur Hurst in the mix. Do you think that this trade, Desmond Bane from the Grizzlies to the Magic, Arthur, says anything about Ja Morant, the future of the Memphis Grizzlies, and if so, what?
For me, man, I like the trade because it goes back to what you said. Yes, we can look at the basketball aspect of it as you know, Desmond Bane going to Orlando Magic. I believe Orlando did get better. You add another great shooter with Desmond Bane to that team, and then you bring in a guy like KCP, great defender. He can shoot as well, but it's that maturity aspect. You can make all the moves that you want, but at the end of the day, are you able to get past your youth and realize the situation that you are in? This is a luxury. This is not you don't have a right to play in this freaking league. You are lucky to be one of the few guys in the world to play professional basketball, the place that everybody wants to get to. So the Grizzlies actually needed to make this move because if Ja and the Grizzlies were not able to accomplish anything by the time of his final contract comes up in 27 and 2028, he's leaving, which would be completely understandable. But again, are you mature? Are you able to ascend to the next level? Not because you cannot play basketball, but because you are mature enough to realize that I'm the one standing in my own way. We as a team are standing in our way of our success, whether it's off the court issues, whether it's the fact that, you know, at moments in times during games, we're showing our youth and our air experience, and we're not really locking down and coming in and working in as a team to be successful. KCP brings that. He's a 2-time champion with the Los Angeles Lakers, with LeBron James, and then the Denver Nuggets with Nikola Jokic, and he brings that grittiness that he has on the defensive end and being able to knock down shots on the offensive end to the Memphis Grizzlies, but he also brings a really good leadership mentality with him that the Grizzlies desperately need. Again, like you said, they tried it with Steven Adams. It did not work. Hopefully it works with KCP, but the Memphis Grizzlies can make all the moves they want. If they don't realize and recognize that they need to get out of their own way and grow up and be real basketball players, real businessmen in this profession, they're not going to be successful like Houston, like OKC, even like the Indiana Pacers, because all of them realize that they need to be mature in what they're doing, not act like little kids and keep treating themselves as kids.
Hopefully, from a veteran leadership perspective, as you know, we talked about a second ago, and as you mentioned, that will make an impact on Memphis. And we know the off-court stuff with Ja, but I feel like this past season there was no sort of obviously legal issues, but like throughout, especially with Memphis, just went into a tailspin in the second half of the year from March on. Ja would just make these odd comments. Like remember after they got swept by the Thunder, who might win the championship on Thursday, he's saying, "Hey, yeah, we have figured out we had figured out Oklahoma City by the time it went down." It's like, no, you hadn't. Like there's just these weird sort of comments that this guy makes, and maybe potentially the leadership of a guy like a KCP can help fix that. Finally, bring Frank into the mix here. Frank, do you think there's sort of indication on what Memphis is trying to do, with Ja Morant as the face of their franchise by trading Desmond Bane to the Orlando Magic?
I think they still believe in Ja, and from everything that I've been reading, it looks like that basically this was just a salary dump. Desmond Bane's a solid player. I agree with Mike. It's really getting crazy that there's these players out here that are getting picks traded, and 4 or 5 picks going for certain players. But it looks like at the end of the day it was just a salary dump. It looks like that they're going to be, Ja's due for an extension this summer, so he can get an extension, and it looks like Jaren Jackson, he's another one that's due for an extension. So it looks like it was just a salary dump. They're going to do whatever they can to fill in these little pieces. I also agree with Arthur that they kind of want to bring in this tough, gritty, KCP guy that can shoot a 3, this 3-and-D guy that could also kind of help out with the maturity aspects that Ja clearly has a problem with. Thank God he didn't have any type of problems this year with any of the gun stuff or any of the things that he got suspended with. But I also think it might actually go to another point where people are kind of looking at, hey, we got to do more in order to get more of a deeper bench. We got to get more deeper players. you know, you guys talked about it with you got the Thunder, you got the Pacers. Those are teams where they got one really star player, and everyone else around that is kind of just people that were drafted, had their little roles, get little pieces in, and I think that's kind of the way that they're going towards. Clearly, the cornerstones stones of their franchises are going to be Jaren Jackson. It's going to be Ja Morant, but you know, I think that they're just making the move because of basically a salary dump. These guys are going to be getting a big amount of money, and we just got to make sure that we have everything ready for them.
This very well could be that, and I think for Memphis, again, it's what do you value in your culture? Again, it wasn't just that they moved on, sort of going back to the Taylor Jenkins thing. It wasn't that they moved on at all. It was the fact they did it again, i.e. Denver Nuggets, Michael Malone style at the end of the season. But at least Denver clearly had a plan in place with David Adelman, and that it seemed like it's worked out pretty well over the course of that, that playoff run for the Nuggets. Let's go ahead and bring everybody back into the mix. Guys, as the late great Vince Scully would once said in 1988 off a Kirk Gibson home run, the impossible has happened. In a hyped up 8 o'clock spot coming in, Mike Guido, I must admit, worst take of the segment, but you are going on to the final round to potentially get another 8 o'clock spot.
Say it. I had a worst take of the
segment. You're the point leader, dude. Okay, you got 14 points. The reason I say the impossible happened, Frank, Arthur, you are moving on to the final round. We're going to have all 3 contestants for the final round. Again, we needed this to break exactly the way that it broke. And it's remarkable, the spot that we are in. The final round rules are pretty simple, folks. The best take, it's 10 points. Winner take all. We know the situation. So, listen, Father's Day was this weekend. Happy Father's Day to all the great dads out there. But a big discussion that I think we're not having enough in professional sports, because you can look at a number of examples, Mike Guido, about some of these great father-son duos in the history of pro sports.
Yeah.
You can think about the Griffeys. You can think about the Mannings. Maybe you can think about the Guerreros or the Bonds. There are plenty of examples. The best father-son duo in the history of sports is what, Mike Guido?
I think it's obviously LeBron and Bronny James. I think that's obviously the top answer. No, I'm totally kidding. Listen, if you look at throughout history as far as father-son duos are concerned, there aren't very many where you can say, like, the father was really great and the son was also really great. Like, it's, you get a lot of good and great, a lot of okay and great, but it's about what, like who has the best good and great. Right? Because I wouldn't say that Ken Griffey Sr. was a great player. He was a good player. Ken Griffey Jr. was an obviously great player. The closest thing I think we have to great and great is Peyton Manning and Archie Manning. Like, I think that's very easily the closest thing we have. And even if you want to include Eli in that conversation as well, winning 2 Super Bowls, I think you can include that as well. Listen, between the two of them, Archie Manning with 2 Pro Bowls, Peyton Manning with 14. That's kind of what I'm getting at. Is like, you have so many like good and great, but I think just with what Peyton Manning did for the sport, as far as how he revolutionized the quarterback position, just with pre-snap motion, with calling plays from the line of scrimmage, right? He ran a no-huddle offense, even though it wasn't a no-huddle offense in that respect. Archie Manning, obviously one of the greats at the position earlier on, obviously in the 70s. So I think that we're talking about, just a lineage of family that all did great things, all had accomplishments. Archie Manning's had 2 kids that have made absolute history in the NFL. I just don't know that there's another father-son combination, I'll say, that have accomplished more than what the Mannings have. Listen, you can make some arguments for, like, obviously Dell and Steph Curry can be brought up in that conversation as well. But again, it's the same thing. Steph was great. Dell was pretty good. I think Archie for his time was pretty great. And Peyton and Eli was good. Peyton was obviously, I think, one of the best of all time, if not the best of all time. I think you have to go with the Mannings.
Listen, we'll see if you end up winning this segment, because Archie and Peyton is a more than legitimate, argument to make. The dynasty of the Manning family, though, like the one son you didn't mention was Cooper, and his son Arch might be the first pick in next year's NFL draft. Like this, this lineage in the Manning family is pretty remarkable to watch. So good take there by Mike Guido. Bring Arthur Hurst to the mix. Arthur, there's plenty of choices. What is the best father-son duo in the history of sports?
So, Mike's an ass. Okay, he took mine. He did, but as great as Archie Manning was for his time, there's one thing that he doesn't have that his sons have, and that's jewelry, Super Bowl rings. But you know a father-son duo who does have Super Bowl rings? Clay and Michael Thompson. Michael Thompson is regarded as one of the best Lakers of all time, was very reliable big man for those Showtime Lakers, able to back up Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He won 2 times with them. First number 1 overall pick, the first foreign player to actually be picked in the league. And then, come on, man, we know about Klay Thompson, one of the greatest shooters of all time, top 3, behind, you want to say, Steph Curry and Ray Allen. And depending on who you talk to, he's probably going to be ahead of Ray Allen. So you got both of the Splash Brothers, in some people's eyes, as the 2 greatest shooters of all time, 4 championships, a pivotal point and player of the Warriors dynasty. You can go back to that 2019 NBA Finals when they lose against the Toronto Raptors. Yes, Kevin Durant went down, but Klay Thompson went down as well. He's a really good defender in his prime, one of the best off-the-catch shooters we've ever seen, scored 60 points with 11 dribbles. I mean, look, man, Archie Manning and Peyton and Eli, they're great. But again, Archie doesn't have the jewelry to back it up. Michael got 2, Klay Thompson got 4. So I got to go with Klay Thompson and Michael Thompson.
Outside of the box take, I thought about Dell and Steph. Obviously, Dell has his number 30 retired in Charlotte. Steph, we know what he is. Interesting take. Like Michael with 2, Klay with 4, like 6 championships between them. Not bad. So a good take there by Arthur Hurst. Outside the box, no question about it. Bring Frank Speights in the mix. Frank, plenty of duos to choose from, but who's the greatest father-son duo in the history of sports?
Yeah, that was cute by Arthur, but the number one is the Mannings. Guido nailed it. It's the Mannings. I mean, that family it's unbelievable. You guys talked about it. Cooper's probably going to be the number 1 overall pick next year. Archie is, his NFL career wasn't as great, but he's one of the greatest college football players ever. Peyton is a 14-time Pro Bowler. He's a 7-time first-team All-Pro. He completely revolutionized the way that the quarterback position is played. I mean, Eli went on to be one of the greatest football teams ever in the undefeated Patriots, 2-time Super Bowl champion. Peyton also 2-time Super Bowl champion. It's the Mannings. I mean, they have just swept across the board. They have accomplished so much within that family. And funny thing about, you guys brought up Cooper. I don't know if you guys knew this. A lot of people talk about how Cooper was actually the best player out of the whole family. I don't know if a lot of you guys even knew that. At wide receiver, they actually said that Cooper, if it wasn't for the fact that he got hurt in high school, he probably would have ended up being better than everyone in the family. So, yeah, you ask me, it's the Mannings without a doubt. I mean, it's open and shut case. If you ask me, I don't know what else to say toward that.
Hey, listen, you talk about the accomplishments of that family, and I'm glad you're giving Cooper love because Cooper had his football career ended with a devastating injury at the end. So listen, all 3 of you guys, bring Guido and Arthur back in the mix. You guys all make great takes. I have to admit, the Michael Thompson and Klay Thompson was kind of outside the box. But listen, it's the 8 o'clock spot. It's a competitive show. It's a competitive environment. But the winner for episode 70 of the 8 o'clock spot is none other than, drum roll, please, Frank Speights, who wins it.
Why do I feel like there's a little bit of hate towards Guido? And that's why I ended up getting it.
I promise it's not hate. I thought you had a great take there at the end. Frank, bask in the glory. Your first win in the history of the show. How's it feel tonight?
It feels good. It feels good. Oh man, I don't know. It seems it might be a little tainted, but I'll take it. I'm not gonna be upset about it. A win is a win. So it looks like Arthur got on me last week about me being a rookie. Well, a rookie won this week. So
No question. No question. Listen, there's no foul play involved. Like, how do you be so like acting like there's some like cabal going on right now? Like, this is so beneath you. It has me considering Frank stripping your first win history of the show. I'm not going to do that. But listen, Frank had a great show. Mike and Arthur, and listen, something else that is so fascinating about this. And we'll have a special guest joining us in about a minute and a half, just for the record. But is that, give a quick history lesson. 1912 presidential election. I know everybody's really excited for this, okay? Maybe the most loaded election in the history of America, because we had 3 presidents running against each other. You had Teddy Roosevelt trying to get the Republican nomination from incumbent William Howard Taft. Couldn't do it. Split the vote. And Woodrow Wilson got the W in the 1912 election. That's essentially what Frank did. Frank is playing the Woodrow Wilson role in this situation. But shout out to Arthur, shout out to Mike. Frank, first win in the history of the show. Congratulations. Bask in the glory. That is it for this week's edition, episode 70 of the 8 o'clock spot. You can go ahead and bring in the special guest now. We can bring this little fellow in, making his debut on Carving It Up. Is he there? Here we go. There's my cat Nealon. Making the first debut. He just happened to be in here. It's raining hard outside in Tennessee. He's waving the audience. I'm not sure he really wants to be up here. He's not a fan of the bright lights. But have a great week, everybody. Enjoy the rest of the NBA Finals. We'll be back for our Season 2 finale of the 8 o'clock spot next week, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific time. YouTube, Twitter, be there. Can't wait to see y'all. Stay safe out there. God bless y'all. Peace out.